The 9th generation Volkswagen Passat comes only as an estate, with a more spacious interior and a premium style cabin. There's a more sophisticated MQB Evo platform, a new era of media connectivity, and the option of a PHEV powertrain that might encourage you to put off that switch to EV. Mindful of European government and consumer indecision when it comes to the impending switch to EVs, Volkswagen has granted a stay of execution to its traditional combustion model lines, which is why we still have a Golf as well as an ID3, a Tiguan as well as an ID4, and, as in this case, a Passat alongside an ID7. Here's the 9th generation model. The brand can't continue to invest in development of the old badges as it once did though, which is why this B9 series Passat design was primarily developed by Skoda, and it shares almost everything under the skin with the 4th generation Skoda Superb that's built alongside it at VW's plant in Bratislava, Slovakia. That Wolfsburg reluctance to invest away from EVs also has something to do with the fact that you can only now have your Passat as an estate. Be all that as it may, the Passat is still here, and you can see why Volkswagen was unwilling to let the nameplate go just yet. A part of the company's lineup since 1973, it's racked up over 34 million sales. Though its days of big production volumes are over, there's still plenty here to please model line loyalists in this, the largest and most sophisticated Passat yet. So will this model line bow out on a high? Let's subject it to the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test. Volkswagen is very good at creating a premium driving experience. It always has been with the Passat, and you feel that's what you're in for once you take a seat at the wheel of this 9th generation version, which greets you with this glowing silver center console start button. It all feels different, yet familiar. Different because you're faced with an even more digitalized cockpit, complete now with a steering column gear shifting stalk like you get in a Volkswagen EV. But familiar because there's a reassuringly solid and confident feel to the cabin ergonomics and the way that everything works. Will that continue to extend into the way this car drives? Let's find out. Pretty much, yes. As expected, what's served up here is a driving experience that in every way is prioritised towards laid-back comfort, exactly as a typical Passat user would want. Or at least it is in the top spec R-Line model that we're trying here, which comes with the latest DCC Pro version of Volkswagen's adaptive damping system, with its myriad of settings. There are 15 in all. Previously, DCC in a Passat was quite a crude system that operated with single valves. DCC Pro is a far more sophisticated 2-valve setup that's coordinated by the Vehicle Dynamics Manager setup now added to all versions of this car. For reference, that's the system we first saw on the Golf GTI, which coordinates the stability, traction and XDS electronic differential lock functions, a bit like the conductor of an orchestra, so that they better work together. You can also pay extra for DCC Pro with mid-level trim, and we'd say that it's a worthwhile investment if you really want this car to ride like a Passat should. Though by all accounts the standard passive damping setup is a lot less brittle than it is in the 3rd generation Tiguan that we tried recently. At the time of filming, that Tiguan model was the only other car in the brand's range which shared this B9 era Passat's biggest update, its new MLB Evo platform, which supposedly allows for a greater degree of powertrain electrification. That doesn't refer to any kind of EV version, of course. As you might know, that market's covered off in this segment for Volkswagen by the brand's ID7 Tourer. What you might think that extra electrification means here is provision of some kind of full hybrid engine, but the Passat still can't offer that because, unaccountably, the VW Group doesn't have one. Your dealer will try and gloss over that fact by mentioning the new e-hybrid PHEV versions, which we'll brief you on in a moment, or by talking about the mild hybrid eTSI engine tech it does have, which isn't the same thing at all because it can't ever allow the e-car to run solely on battery power, even for short periods. Since eTSI Passats are going to account for the majority of UK sales, that's what we've elected to try here. It's the first time we've seen any kind of electrified Passat that you can't plug in, with the 1.5 litre four-cylinder petrol engine in question here offered only in its higher output 150 PS form. With this DCC Pro system fitted, you have a choice of Sport, Comfort and normal drive mode selection drive modes too. With Sport engaged, the stats say this mild hybrid model manages the 0 to 62 mile an hour figure from 9.2 seconds en route to a top speed of 139 miles an hour, though it doesn't feel as quick as that. And because this is a Passat, that doesn't really matter. As usual with a mild hybrid, the eTSI engine works with a 48-volt belt starter generator and a 48-volt lithium-ion battery that gets charged through regenerative braking energy delivered when coasting or off throttle. From launch, the alternative to eTSI tech in this car was that aforementioned e-hybrid PHEV technology, which is now vastly improved but can still only drive the front wheels. The e-hybrid Passats replaced the old GTE model's 1.4 litre engine with the eTSI model's 1.5 litre unit and now come in a choice of versions with either 204 PS or 272 PS. The key change though is that both now get a far larger 19.7 kilowatt hour battery, up from 13 kilowatt hours before, which has more than doubled EV drive range to potentially as much as 82 miles. Enough, Volkswagen reckons, to allow most families to use a Passat e-hybrid, much like an EV. Now, as with the old Passat GTE, there's a 6-speed DSG auto gearbox to replace the 7-speed DSG auto used in the conventionally engined model. The 204 PS version makes 62 miles an hour in 8.1 seconds en route to 137 miles an hour. The 272 PS version improves those figures to 7.1 seconds and 140 miles an hour. As with all versions of the old Passat, the auto shifters in this one don't much like being hustled along, but you won't particularly be wanting to drive like that anyway, because this car doesn't take particularly kindly to it, even with the sports suspension pack fitted that's standard on this R-Line version and optional on a mid-level Elegance variant. Now, that pack gives you sports rear suspension and rather more direct progressive steering. That's to replace the sharpened standard electric setup. None of that's really needed or wanted here, but if you are running late on twisting secondaries, you'll find that this big Volkswagen is easy to place in the turns, where it grips well and admirably resists body roll. Obviously, its more preferred habitat is the highway, where you'll enjoy the now even more impressive levels of refinement and the greater level of journeying technology that Volkswagen's built into this 9th generation model. Unlike in the comparable Tiguan, all versions of this car get the brand's travel assist semi-autonomous drive system that you might have come across in other recent Volkswagens. If you haven't, then we'll tell you that Travel Assist is a setup that's capable of taking over the steering, the braking and the acceleration of the car at any speed, provided the driver keeps his or her hands on the capacitive steering wheel, which includes a Travel Assist button to activate the system. To achieve its supporting role, the Travel Assist system relies on two key features: lane assist, that's for lateral guidance, and adaptive cruise control, that's for longitudinal guidance. There's also the brand's clever Eco Assist system, which uses navigation data to automatically modify throttle usage for greater efficiency and is able to proactively take into account local speed limit information, town boundary signs, junctions and roundabouts. Those are two useful bits of Passat technology. Another is a Park Assist Plus system that can remember difficult parking manoeuvres at frequently visited locations and perform them for you, potentially even via a phone app as you stand outside the car. It's all really well thought through, just like pretty much every other dynamic element of this Passat, right down to the soothing plink of the speed warning limiter, which sounds like the master of ceremonies tapping his wine glass prior to a speech. It all means that as long as you don't expect a particularly rewarding level of driving engagement, then you'll probably like the car a lot. Space is what this 9th generation Passat is all about. For the first time in this model line's history, it's only available as an estate, a station wagon that's significantly bigger than its predecessor, yet still as conservatively styled, the kind of thing a typical older Passat customer will like. The 4,917mm length is 144mm longer than before, and the considerable increase in wheelbase length this time round is very evident from the extended profile, emphasised by the long side window areas and this central character line which flows through the door handles to the tail lamps. To try and make the car look a little less boxy, Volkswagen has reduced roof height by 10mm to 1,506mm, and there's a striking D-pillar with a more pronounced forward angle. Slightly flared wheel arches now house rims of up to 19 inches in size. We've got 18-inch Coventry black diamond-turned rims here. Up front, there's a redesigned bonnet, which, unlike that of the predecessor model, is lower in the middle than at the sides. And it sweeps down into a narrow grille, now topped by an LED light strip, and flanked by redesigned LED headlamps that can incorporate the brand's IQ Light matrix tech. Narrow daytime running light strips sit above the two lamp modules. Otherwise, the look of the front varies quite a lot with trim choice. Horizontal bars in the deeper front bumper for the mainstream models, and these huge accented lower corner cutout panels for this top R-Line spec version, which make a most un-Passat-like overtaking statement. At the rear, continuous LED light clusters with a 3D illuminating signature emphasise the extra 20mm of width. Lots of work's gone into aero here. The large roof spoiler and these side air guide elements on the D-pillars, hence the improved 0.25 CD drag factor. A diffuser below the bumper aims to add a sportier look. Much more important is what sits beneath all of this tinsel, the latest MLB Evo version of the modular Querbackenston MLB platform that Volkswagen Group models have been using for over a decade now, which is shared with the 3rd generation Tiguan and is what's allowed for this Mark 9 model's new PHEV drivetrains. In short then, the engineering sophistication here has been cloaked with the conservatism Passat folk will expect. But that's more difficult to do while still delivering the digital screenfest customers in this segment now expect from the interior of a car at this price point. It'll be interesting to see how Volkswagen has addressed that. Well, as you can see, they haven't held back, though to be fair, the overall effect might be slightly less arresting if you avoided paying extra for the rather overlarge 15-inch central screen we've got fitted here. The standard 12.9-inch monitor fits this rather nicely restyled dashboard rather better. Now, there's certainly a higher feeling of perceived quality here, which is what previous Passat owners will be looking for, though with a few exceptions, one of which is this rather cheap feeling gear selector which now resides on the right hand column stall like a Volkswagen EV. The designers hope that your attention will be attracted instead by the multicoloured ambient lighting, the stitched fascia surfaces, and these shiny dash and door trimming panels with their Morse code-like graphics. And by the superbly supportive redesigned ergo-active seats, which include electric operation, lumbar support adjustment, and pneumatic 3-chamber massage in the backrests. They're a real model highlight, especially in the sports form that we have here. Not so good is the way that the previous model's physical climate controls have here been swallowed up by the central screen. The system works okay, but works better in this car's Skoda Superb development cousin, which has separated multifunction OLED screen illuminated climate control knobs that presumably could have been fitted here had not Volkswagen's development team been so set on making the design of this cabin different to that of this car's Czech counterpart. As with other more recent Volkswagen models, the silly ergonomic errors of the marque's older MIB3 era dashboard architecture, as fitted to the original version of the 8th generation Golf, have been corrected with this replacement MIB4 setup's introduction of proper physical buttons on the steering wheel and backlit sliders beneath the central screen for volume and for temperature. The soft leather-like surfaces, the high-quality plastics, the beautifully stitched capacitive steering wheel, the well-damped air vent sliders, and the covered center console all feel suitably premium and a cut above what you'd find on mainstream rival models like Peugeot's 508 SW and the Citroën C5X. Plus, there's a much better head-up display this time around too, which projects onto the bottom of the windscreen and can incorporate the brand's latest augmented reality navigation tech. The 10.25-inch instrument screen is the usual clearly formatted Volkswagen affair rather than the cluttered digit fest so many Far Eastern makers serve up, and with the right steering wheel view format selected remains capable of showing full screen mapping. For that, you'll need to select a screen layout with a configurable center panel, which can also show drive assist graphics or trip data. There are various selectable layout formats. Two have a central data panel, one of the formats with twin dials and the other with flanking square data boxes. The third format provides a central rev counter flanked by data circles, which on this top R-Line version additionally includes an R logo, a gear change indicator, and a special RPM readout. Where you've a layout that shows the central display with flanking data, you can configure the left-hand side of the screen to show efficiency info, while the right-hand side of the screen can show things like phone and audio info and a compass. Overall, whatever layout format that you select, this display is vastly better than the much smaller instrument screens that you get on Volkswagen EVs. As we said earlier, the complementing central infotainment monitor will be either sensibly sized at 12.9 inches or, as in this case, rather over large for the dash design at 15 inches in size, with its main functionality borrowed from the new software setup we first saw in the ID7. As there, this screen has permanently displaying upper and lower bars, the bottom section for temperature controls, the top right configurably populated by your 5 favourite functions. Click this lower blue framed square to view the information that you want in various customizable widget tiles, or click this upper right app button to view a screen full of little icons. These include the App Connect Apple CarPlay Android Auto setup and the cabin's elegant 30 colour ambient lighting system. There's also a moods section which can give you various colour coordinated cabin themes: infinity, eternity, desire, euphoria and vitality. Perfect if you're heading home after the kind of taxing day of work that made it possible for you to afford a Passat in the first place. At which point you'll want to have upgraded the standard 8-speaker sound system for this test car's lovely optional 700-watt 11-speaker Harman Kardon setup. Many of these central screen features can also be activated by the much improved IDA voice control system, which, unlike the previous generation one, can activate drive modes and has been configured to work with ChatGPT, so that if it can't react to your question, it'll go away and search for an almost instant answer online before responding. It can also more accurately work with broad queries as well as specific ones. So, for instance, I'm hungry will bring up a list of local restaurants, while I'm cold will increase the interior temperature. We still wish this system was complemented by a lower iDrive style rotary controller though, or at least a lower one for volume and drive modes like you get in a Tiguan. What else? Well, moving the gear shifter to the right-hand wheel stalk rather overburdens this stalk on the left, but aside from that, the ergonomics here are pretty spot on. Finding a comfortable driving position, well, that could hardly be more straightforward. Though you don't, of course, get the more commanding driving position that would have been provided by the mid-sized SUV that you could have bought for much the same kind of money. You might miss that when trying to judge the extremities of the long bonnet when manoeuvring into tricky parking spaces, but all-round sensors and a rear-view camera are standard, and the long windows provide for decent over-the-shoulder view. As usual with the Passat, practicality's been well thought through, with greater levels of cabin storage now on offer. There's a spacious box between the seats, the lid of which doubles up as a cushioned armrest. Inside is a removable coin tray and a sidewall card wallet. Ahead of this box lie two covered compartments, one for the twin cup holders and one for the area the brand has clearly designated for your smartphone, because it contains a charging mat and twin USB ports, though because, as usual with Volkswagen, they're both of the USB-C sort, you'll probably need this rather unsightly converter lead. You don't get an overhead sunglasses compartment as you would in a Tiguan, and there's only a ticket clip in the driver's sun visor. The glove box is big, and there are deep carpeted door bins that can hold a 1.5 litre bottle. If you somehow doubted that this was a Skoda carryover design, well, here's some proof. Something we've never seen in a Volkswagen. A slide-out umbrella. Perhaps the biggest cabin change, though, is in rear seat legroom, accessed via these wide-opening doors. This Mark 9 model's 50mm increase in wheelbase length would lead you to expect space back here to be vastly improved. It is. Don't expect the palatial amounts of legroom you'd get in the brand's ID7 EV, and there isn't quite as much room for your knees as you'd find in the cloned Skoda Superb model, but it's all a vast improvement on the rear seat experience of previous generation Passats, which themselves were hardly cramped. Here in the rear, all of that extra wheelbase length has been devoted to extra legroom, now measuring a full 947mm. As you might expect, that's vastly better than a rival Peugeot 508 SW, or the kind of pricier premium badged model that you get in this segment, say a BMW 3 Series or a Mercedes C-Class. In fact, it'll all feel quite limo-like, even if you're a 6-footer sitting behind someone of equal lankiness. Because of this 9th generation model's small reduction in roof height, headspace won't be quite as impressive, especially if you've had this optional glass panoramic roof fitted. And it'll be even worse if you've drawn the short straw and found yourself confined to the middle perch, which seats you on top of a raised section of foam and requires your feet to straddle the kind of raised central tunnel that you wouldn't have to bother about in the back of a comparable ID7. Unfortunately, the seat backs don't recline, but there are useful side window blinds. when there's only two of you, a central armrest folds to reveal a much more sturdy looking cup holder arrangement than the flimsy one that you get on a Tiguan, though it can only accommodate smaller cups. Older kids will appreciate the provision of twin USB-C ports back here and the twin foam pockets in the seat backs, which sit above the main seat back pockets. There are big door bins and overhead reading lights, plus this 3-zone climate control panel too. Let's finish with a look out back. The powered tailgate rises to reveal a cargo area so vast that it's even better than the class leader in the segment above. The 690 litre total up to the height of the rear seat back rests, the same as a Skoda Superb estate, is 40 litres better than the previous generation station wagon Passat and a full 75 litres more than the supposedly larger and far pricier Mercedes E-Class estate. To give you some more perspective, in this Passat's own segment, a Peugeot 508 SW offers just 530 litres, which incidentally is the boot capacity of this Passat in PHEV e-hybrid form, where the cargo area is compromised by an underfloor battery. That e-hybrid drivetrain will also mean that you do without the depth of space you get under this boot floor, which on this ETSI model can accommodate any kind of spare wheel, though Volkswagen doesn't provide one as standard. This big, square, practical space is accessed by a low loading lip covered in practically with silver trimming that will quickly scratch and scuff. There are the usual tie-down points and bright lights sit on either side, plus Volkswagen has thoughtfully built two further ones into the tailgate to facilitate nighttime loading. There's a pull-out bag hook each side and a 12-volt socket on the right. A warning triangle is neatly built into the inner side of the tailgate, and there are deep segmented recesses either side, so bulky items like pushchairs and golf bags can easily fit in widthwise. There's a strap in the right compartment. Go for the neat optional swiveling tow bar and you can activate that via this right-hand cargo sidewall switch here. All models get a 60-40 split rear backrest with a centre through loading hatch that will allow you to poke through longer items like skis from the boot. With the rear seat totally flattened by pulling on these cargo sidewall catches that drop the spring-loaded seat backs, up to 1,920 litres of pretty level space can be freed up with conventionally engined models, 140 litres more than previously. At the time of launch and of our test in summer 2024, Volkswagen was asking from around £39,000 for this 9th generation Passat. That's for the base 1.5e TSI 150 PS version. As we filmed, the e-hybrid PHEV variants were starting from around £44,000. This time round, as we've said elsewhere in this film, there's just this single estate body style. Only China now gets a combustion Volkswagen saloon of this size. There's a choice of 3 trim levels: Life, Elegance, or as in this case, Top R-Line. And as you'd now expect, it's an auto-only lineup. Customers for the e-hybrid prepared to avoid base trim will be offered the option of finding £2,000 more to go from the 204 PS version to the uprated 272 PS variant of that drivetrain. Other markets get 4Motion 4-wheel drive and the option of diesel power, but we can't brief you on that because neither of those options were being offered in the UK at launch. There's one direct market alternative to this car, its development stablemate, the Skoda Superb, which could be had in diesel and hatch forms from launch, and which in estate guise will save you roughly around £2,000 over a like-for-like Passat estate. Otherwise, direct alternatives are thin on the ground. Once upon a time, almost every mainstream brand competed in this segment. Now there's only Peugeot, whose 508 SW isn't particularly comparable in base 1.2 litre PureTech 130 form, around £4,000 less than a conventionally engined 1.5e TSI Passat, but less powerful and much smaller inside. A bit closer is the 508 SW Hybrid 225, which costs about the same as a Passat e-Hybrid 204 PS model. You might also consider that 508's similarly engineered Stellantis group stablemate, the Citroën C5X, though that's a hatchback. It would save you quite a lot over this Volkswagen though, around £10,000 in base 1.2 litre PureTech 130 form, or around £5,000 as a plug-in hybrid. You might also be considering estate versions of the premium badge models you get in this segment, say a BMW 3 Series Touring or a Mercedes C-Class estate, but those are far smaller inside and, like for like, pricier. A 3 Series Touring, for instance, starts in base 320i form from around £41,000 as we filmed, with the equivalent Mercedes C-Class pricier still. If, having considered all of that, you conclude that it is a Passat you really want, then you'll need to know just how generous Volkswagen has been with standard specs. So let's take a look at that now. Starting with the features that all Passat models include. Expect to find LED headlamps with range control, roof rails, a powered tailgate with a power-operated luggage compartment cover, heat insulating glass, LED tail lamps, powered folding heated mirrors, an alarm, all-round parking sensors, auto headlamps and wipers, and a very complete portfolio of camera safety kit including high beam assist. Inside, with all Passats, you get Volkswagen's Digital Cockpit Pro 10.25-inch instrument screen and a 12.9-inch central infotainment display incorporating Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, an 8-speaker DAB audio system, and Volkswagen's wireless App Connect setup, allowing you to interact with the car via your smartphone. Plus, there's heated front comfort spec seats with a 3-point massage system, the brand's AirCare Climatronic air conditioning system with a rear control panel, an auto-dimming rearview mirror, manual sunblinds for the rear side windows, and a rearview camera. Plus, drive assist features include a Car2X intelligent vehicle networking system, a park assist setup that can memorize frequently visited spaces and steer you into them, and ACC adaptive cruise control. ACC allows for the standard fitment of the brand's Travel Assist with Lane Assist semi-autonomous driving setup, a camera and radar sensor controlled assistance system that will autonomously accelerate, brake and steer your Passat while maintaining a safe distance to vehicles ahead. If you're able to progress from the standard spec to plusher elegance trim, the base Life Model 17-inch Bologna alloy wheels, which have air-stock run-flat tyres, will be swapped for same-sized Napoli alloy rims with a black diamond-turned surface. The front inside gains sport seats with a 13-point massage system. The upholstery gains Art Velours Eco Microfleece inserts, and there's Qualuminium decorative cabin trimming, plus an acoustics pack, LED tail lights with variable lighting functions, and a panoramic glass roof. Finally, there's this top R-Line trimmed model, which is set apart by a black styling pack, R-Line sports style bumpers and 18-inch Coventry alloy wheels with a black and grey diamond turned surface. Inside, R-Line trim gives you brushed stainless steel pedals and upholstery with Caroso R-Line fabric inserts. Plus, at this end of the range, you get sports rear suspension, DCC dynamic chassis control adaptive damping, more direct progressive steering, and intelligent IQ light matrix tech for the headlights. You can choose to embellish all of this with a pricey optional R-Line signature pack, which adds extra black detailing, larger 19-inch Leeds alloy wheels, Puglia leather upholstery, climate control front seats, and an Alcantara headliner. Talking of options, across the range there are a few key extra cost features you might want. The larger 15-inch central screen, for instance, which comes with a head-up display. the Harman Kardon sound system upgrade, leather upholstery with seat memory settings, a tilting and sliding panoramic glass sunroof, and the clever but pricey IQ Light HD Matrix headlamps that we have fitted here. With Elegance spec, you can add the brand's now improved 15-setting DCC Pro adaptive chassis control adaptive damping system and a sports suspension pack, which gives you sports rear suspension, driving profile selection driving modes, and more direct progressive steering. There's also a Park Assist Pro package that can include an app that will allow you to stand outside your Passat and maneuver it into tight spaces using your smartphone. Unless you specify this car in solid pure white, you'll have to pay more for your chosen paint colour. We've got Mariposit Green Metallic here. Where do they get these names? There are 3 interior colour themes, all quite dour. Mistral Grey, Pure Grey, or as in this case, Soul Black. An optional winter pack allows you to add heat for the rear outer seats and a heated windscreen. Practical extras include door sill protectors, the usual floor mats, a luggage net, and the horizontal roof bars that would allow you to fit carriers for roof boxes, bikes, skis or snowboards. If you fit the retractable tow bar we have here, you can add a compact bicycle carrier on the back. The tow bar fitting includes trailer detection, which prevents trailer sway. On to safety, an area where Volkswagen continues to keep this model well up to the highest class standard. A more advanced multi-function front-facing camera allows for an improvement in the standard kit tally across the range. So, for instance, all Passats now get an oncoming vehicle braking when turning feature that safeguards you at junctions and includes swerve support. As before, standard on all models is a front assist autonomous emergency braking system that on the open road scans the road ahead as you drive for potential accident hazards, warning you if one is detected and automatically braking if necessary. Now, you get that same kind of functionality at urban speeds too, as part of a city emergency braking system included as part of the front assist package. This setup also includes predictive pedestrian protection that specifically searches for pedestrians who might be about to step out in front of you and, if necessary, can initiate braking to avoid them. All Passat models also get lane assist, which alerts you if you drift out of lane. And across the range, the Wolfsburg brand has installed an automatic post-collision braking system that automatically brakes the car down to 6 miles an hour after a collision. So if, say, someone hits you and understandably you go all to pieces, the car will automatically sort itself out. We also appreciate the standard fitment of a driver drowsiness monitor system that monitors your reactions for drowsiness, prompting you to stop for a restorative coffee if lethargy is detected. Plus, it's worth mentioning that all Passat models get dynamic road sign display, which pictures speed signs as you pass and displays them in your eye line, which also works with a predictive speed limiter, which uses GPS data to automatically regulate your speed for greater efficiency. The usual passive safety features are fitted as well, of course. There are twin front, side and curtain airbags, plus a centre airbag to stop front seat occupants being thrown together in a crash, with all the bags linked to a pan-European emergency call service that alerts the rescue authorities if you're in an accident and they go off. Now, as you'd expect, you get Isofix child seat fastenings, a tyre pressure monitoring system and anti-whiplash front head restraints. On top of this, there are the usual electronic systems to try and ensure that neither of these features will ever be needed. That means ESC stability control and an ASR traction control system. There's ABS braking, of course. A hill hold assist feature stops you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions, and panic stops will be advertised to following motorists by automatically activating hazard warning lights. If you want more, an optional driver assistance pack adds emergency assist, which will bring the car to a controlled stop if you're taking ill at the wheel, along with an area view camera system and traffic jam assist, which will basically drive the car for you in low speed stop-start traffic. The lack of a self-charging full hybrid engine for the Passat range isn't quite the issue that it is with the brand's similarly priced Tiguan SUV. That's because the most obvious Passat rivals that you might be looking at also lack non-plug-in engines that can run solely for short periods on battery power. We're thinking here of the Stellantis Group Peugeot 508 SW and Citroën C5X models, or premium brand estate versions of the BMW 3 Series or Mercedes C-Class. Posh brand contenders compensate with less effective mild hybrid tech, and this Volkswagen offers that too. A 1.5 litre eTSI engine working with a 48 volt belt starter generator and a 48 volt lithium ion battery that gets charged through regenerative energy delivered when coasting or off throttle, at which point no emissions are being discharged from the engine, which uses ACT Plus active cylinder management to cut use of 4 cylinders to just 2 at light to low throttle loads. The result is up to 52.3 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and up to 124 grams per kilometre of CO2, fractionally better than the lower powered rival Peugeot 508 SW PureTech 130. If that's not efficient enough for you, then the brand's stock solution will be to point to its freshly redeveloped e-hybrid PHEV technology, though of course that costs a lot more money. Still, in return you now get a Passat that could conceivably operate for you much like a mid-sized EV crossover, provided you restricted yourself to suburban journeys. That's thanks to a considerably bigger 19.7 kilowatt hour battery than the previous generation Passat PHEV, the GTE model, could offer, up from 13 kilowatt hours, which is why EV range potential has jumped hugely from just 36 miles to as much as 82 miles with this updated model. That range extension, of course, dramatically affects the efficiency figures, which, as usual with the PHEV, mainly show how ineffectual the current WLTP rating cycle is in measuring the true frugality and cleanliness of a plug-in hybrid. In both guises, a Passat e-hybrid is rated at up to 706.2 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle. In reality, if you keep the car fully charged, its frugality will probably be somewhere close to what a careful owner would get in a diesel-powered model. Where you will get discernible benefit from the fantasy land stats, though, is of course when it comes to CO2, with super low ratings that'll reduce your benefit in kind tax payments to near EV levels. The 204 PS model is measured at just 8 grams per kilometre. With the 272 PS variant, it's up to 9 grams per kilometre. A Passat e-hybrid would go over 500 miles between fuel stops, so for example you could travel from London to Paris and back without refuelling. And it would be more if the ordinary Passat model's 66 litre fuel tank wasn't reduced in size to just 50 litres for the e-hybrid version. The PHEV system's battery can now be charged at a home wall box at up to 11 kilowatts. A more common 7.4 kilowatt wall box needs around 3.5 hours for a full charge. It'd be about 5 hours from a domestic plug. Out and about, your Passat plug-in hybrid can now be DC charged at up to 50 kilowatts, up from a yawningly slow 3.6 kilowatts before, which would allow you to DC charge a Passat e-hybrid from 10 to 80% in just 23 minutes. But that would be expensive, so you would probably prefer to charge the car at home. From a typical 7 kilowatt wall box from empty to full, that'll take about 4 hours. Across the range, efficiency figures are aided by Volkswagen's useful Eco Assist feature, which uses navigation data to automatically slow the car for junctions, roundabouts and sharp bends. Insurance groups are a little higher than the class average, starting from Group 30 for the cheapest 1.5 E-TSI 150 PS standard spec version, while the base 204 PS E hybrid rates at Group 36 and the 272 PS E hybrid rates at Group 40. As for depreciation, well, the predicted values between 46 and 49% over a 3-year 36,000 mile ownership period aren't any better than those of a rival Skoda Superb estate, and are well down on those of an equivalent Volkswagen Tiguan mid-sized SUV, which is 53 to 57%. As for servicing across the range, well, as usual with Volkswagen models, there's a choice of either fixed or flexible maintenance packages. You'll choose the fixed approach if you cover less than 9,300 miles a year. And with this, the car will typically be looked at every 12 months. If your daily commute is more than 25 miles and your Passat will regularly be driven on longer distance journeys, then you'll be able to work with a so-called flexible regime that can see you travelling up to 18,600 miles between garage visits or every 2 years, whichever is sooner. And warranties? Well, as with Stellantis products, VW Group cars continue to lose out to their Far Eastern competitors here. The Passat, as before, offers a standard package of just 3 years and 60,000 miles. We can't really see why Volkswagen couldn't extend this. The identically engined Cupra Formentor offers a 5-year 90,000 mile warranty. The Passat e-Hybrid has a separate 8-year battery warranty, which also covers the battery for up to 100,000 miles. All Passats come with 3 years of pan-European roadside assistance that has no mileage restriction. The paintwork warranty lasts for 3 years, and as you'd expect, this car is protected by a 12-year anti-corrosion package. If you've ever thought that a combination of Skoda space and practicality and Volkswagen class and quality would be ideal, then you'll like this 9th generation Passat very much. Under the skin, the fact that it's really more Skoda than Volkswagen is indicative of the way the Czech brand took the lead in the essential development of this B9 series design. But it's been packaged in a way that the Passat Model Lion's loyal customers should like, and offers a level of cabin space that will impress them very much. You might quite reasonably ask why you shouldn't save quite a significant amount and get this same engineering repackaged as a Skoda Superb estate. To some extent though, the same question applied to the previous generation Passat estate, and that sold pretty well despite having a significantly smaller boot than the equivalent Skoda. This B9 series model though matches its Czech equivalent on cargo space while managing, to some eyes, to look a little sportier and more aspirational. Yet it's still a very mature choice, as the Passat always has been, and a great business tool with supple ride quality, excellent refinement, class-leadingly comfortable seats and brilliant build quality. All the things, in fact, that an aspiring middle management buyer with long distances to travel is likely to prioritise. This is, in every sense, a car that knows its market. If you were choosing logically, it'd be difficult to justify a mid-sized SUV over one of these. A few will be disappointed that you can no longer have a Passat saloon, but the estate is the variant most would have chosen anyway. In a changing world, there's a reassuring sense of constancy about a Passat. Yes, it too has changed, but not beyond recognition.